Hey guys, tonight we are going back to a time before WebMD, before penicillin, and frankly, before the revolutionary concept of washing your hands. We're heading to medieval Europe to spend a day in the life of a village, wise woman, a healer, an herbalist, and, depending on who you ask and how the harvest is going, maybe a witch. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive this. Your 21st century immune system would take one look at a cup of well water and file for immediate retirement. But tonight, you're not a tourist. You're the expert. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop me a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always a quiet pleasure to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the smell. It's the smell of a fire that has been sleeping, not dead. A deep, earthy aroma of wood smoke, so ingrained in the very fabric of this place that you no longer register it as a warning, but as a comfort. It's the scent of home. It clings to your blanket, your hair, and the rough linen of your shift. Slowly, other scents rise to meet it. The damp, sweet smell of the thatched roof above you, the sharp, clean fragrance of the dried herbs hanging from the rafters, and a faint, almost mineral tang of the packed earth floor. You lie still for a moment, letting the world assemble itself around you in the dark. There are no windows as you know them, just small, shuttered openings cut into the walls, but a sliver of pre-dawn gray has found its way in. It's just enough light to trace the familiar shapes of your world. You are in a small, single-room cottage nestled at the very edge of the village. Your home. The walls are a sturdy mixture of woven branches and clay, a technique called wattle and daub, and they feel less like barriers and more like a protective shell. Above you, the wooden beams that support the roof are blackened to a deep, permanent charcoal. This is a testament to the thousands of fires that have warmed this small space. The hearth is the heart of your home, situated in the center of the room, and the smoke simply finds its own way out through a dedicated hole in the roof. There is no chimney. That's a luxury for the manor house, not for common folk. This simple, open hearth design is a widely accepted reality of peasant life, keeping the cottage warm and the bacon perpetually smoked, but also filling it with a haze that stings the eyes of the uninitiated. You shift, and the mattress beneath you rustles with a dry, whispering sound. It's not filled with memory foam or goose down. It's a simple sack, a palliasse, stuffed with straw and whatever dried bracken you could gather before winter. It's firm, a little lumpy, and surprisingly comfortable once you know its contours. You pull the heavy wool blanket tighter around your shoulders. It's coarse and scratchy, but its weight is a reassuring presence against the chill morning air that seeps through the walls. The rooster at the nearby farm has already made his first, rather self-important announcement to the world. He is your alarm clock, and he has no concept of a 5-minute snooze. A soft clucking sound comes from a shadowed corner of the room. You don't need the light to know it's Agnes. She is your roommate, a placid brown hen who doesn't pay rent but occasionally contributes a warm, perfect egg, which is far more than you can say for some roommates. In the dead of winter, it's not uncommon for villagers to bring their most valuable livestock inside for the night. This quirky detail of medieval life is a matter of simple practicality. The animals are protected from thieves and predators, and their shared body heat helps to raise the temperature in the small cottage by a few precious degrees. Agnes is your only permanent resident, a quiet and respectable companion. Your bare feet find the floor, and it's cold. Not the sharp, biting cold of tile or stone, but the deep, resonant cold of the earth itself. The floor is little more than compressed dirt, swept daily until it has a hard, smooth surface. Historians still debate the finer points of medieval flooring. Some sources claim that floors were covered in layers of rushes and herbs, changed only once or twice a year, creating a rather pungent and unhygienic foundation. Others argue this is an exaggeration and that a well-swept earthen floor was far more common and clean. Looking at your own floor, You suspect the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's mostly bare, but you have a few dried bundles of meadowsweet scattered about, which release a pleasant, grassy scent when crushed underfoot. You are fully awake now. The day is waiting. There is no electric light to flick on, no thermostat to adjust, no running water to splash on your face. There is only the quiet, rhythmic work of survival and service that defines your life. The world outside your door is still wrapped in a blanket of misty twilight, and the village is just beginning to stir. But here, in your small, smoky home, your day begins with a single, vital task. The embers in the central hearth are glowing a faint, patient orange. They are the seeds of the day's warmth and the day's meals. Your first thought is not of breakfast, or of the patients who might seek you out today, but of the fire. Always the fire. You reach for the kindling you stacked beside it last night, the familiar ritual about to begin. You kneel on the cold earth floor, the chill seeping into the thin fabric of your shift. Carefully, you lean over the hearth, your breath a soft, white plume in the dim air. The embers pulse with a gentle, sleepy rhythm. You don't need a bellows, your own lungs are the tool for this job. You purse your lips and blow, a long, steady stream of air aimed at the heart of the glow. At first, nothing happens. Then a tiny spark dances, then another. You add a handful of dry moss and a few slivers of pine, your personal fire starters, gathered and stored with care. You blow again, and this time, the embers catch. A tiny, hungry flame licks at the moss, and the scent of burning pine, sharp and clean, momentarily cuts through the old smoke. This daily resurrection of the fire is one of the most vital skills you possess. A household that let its fire die completely was in trouble, forced to borrow hot coals from a neighbor, a small but humbling inconvenience. The village curfew bell, which rings at nightfall, isn't just about sending people to bed. It's a practical reminder to bank your fire safely, to preserve these precious embers for the morning. With the flame now stable, you add larger twigs, arranging them in a small, airy structure. They crackle and pop, a cheerful, domestic sound that pushes back the silence. The growing light throws your shadow, huge and flickering, against the wattle and daub walls. In this warm, dancing light, the familiar bundles of herbs hanging from the rafters seem to sway and breathe. Yarrow, comfrey, chamomile, St. John's wort, your silent partners, your library of remedies. You reach for a small, saucer-like dish sitting on a stone ledge. It holds a lump of hardened animal fat with a spindly, blackened rush sticking out of it. This is your rushlight, a simple, cheap form of candle. Lighting it from a burning twig, you gain a small, sputtering circle of greasy, yellow light. It's not much. It smells faintly of burnt bacon and offers about as much illumination as a modern phone on its lowest setting, but it's enough to see by. The use of these simple, homemade lights is a quirky little detail of life for the common folk. Proper beeswax candles are an unimaginable luxury, reserved for the church altar and the Lord's table. With your feeble light source in hand, you move to the corner that serves as your kitchen. A large iron pot, big enough for stew or a small-scale brewing project, hangs from a hook over the hearth. You fill a much smaller clay pot with water from a covered wooden bucket. The water is cold, drawn from the village well late yesterday. You swing the hook out from over the main fire and hang the little pot over a gentler section of the flames. While it heats, you conduct your morning inventory. You run your fingers along the rows of dried herbs, checking their texture, their scent. Are the mint leaves still pungent? Is the comfrey root dry enough to be ground into a powder? This is not a casual check. Your livelihood and your patient's well-being depends on the potency of your supplies. Your apothecary is not a dusty, chaotic mess. It's organized with a logic born of long practice. Barks and roots in one section, leaves and flowers in another, seeds and berries in small cloth bags. A visitor might see a jumble of weeds, but you see a carefully curated collection of potential. You crumble a leaf of sage between your fingers, its familiar, savory perfume filling the air. Still strong. This is your knowledge, your inheritance. Historians still wonder about the literacy of women like you. Could you read? Perhaps you have a treasured, hand-copied herbal, its pages filled with elegant drawings and descriptions passed down from Roman physicians. Or, more likely, is your knowledge entirely oral, a vast and complex system of information passed from your mother, or the woman who trained you, committed to memory through rhyme, story, and endless repetition? You look at your hands in the flickering light. They know the shape of each leaf, the feel of each root, without needing a written word. This knowledge lives in your bones. The water is steaming now. You reach for a small bundle of dried nettles, a plant most people avoid for its stinging bite. You, however, know it as a source of strength. You crumble a few leaves into a rough pottery mug, its surface worn smooth by years of use, and pour the hot water over them. The resulting brew is a deep green, smelling earthy and slightly metallic. This isn't a cozy chamomile lie. It's a bitter, iron-rich tonic meant to clear the head and fortify the body. You sip it slowly, letting the heat spread through you. It's the medieval equivalent of a wheatgrass shot, and it probably tastes about the same. Agnes, the hen, makes another soft clucking sound, reminding you of your duties as a landlady. You scatter a small handful of grain for her on the floor. She pecks at it with tidy, efficient movements. The cottage is warmer now, filled with the smells of brewing nettles and the steady, comforting crackle of a healthy fire. The pale light filtering through the shutter cracks is stronger, less gray, and more of a soft, pearly white. Your morning ritual is complete. It involved no incantations, no bubbling cauldrons, no communication with otherworldly spirits. It was a sequence of small, practical tasks: tending the fire, checking your tools, and preparing yourself for the day. You are not a sorceress. You are a professional, and your work is about to begin. You just need to get dressed first, which is a simple matter of pulling a wool tunic on over your shift and tying a leather belt around your waist. The height of fashion, it is not. You pull on a pair of soft, worn leather shoes, little more than slippers that mold to the shape of your feet, and unlatch the heavy wooden door. It swings inward with a familiar groan, a sound as much a part of the morning as the rooster's crow. The air that greets you is crisp, damp, and alive with the scent of wet earth, wood smoke from a dozen other cottages, and the distant, unmistakable aroma of livestock. The sun is not yet visible, but its light is spreading across the eastern sky, turning the clouds a soft, bruised purple and pink. A low-lying mist clings to the ground, weaving through the crooked fences and huddling in the hollows of the landscape. It's quiet. The boisterous noise of the village day, the blacksmith's hammer, the shouts of children, the rumble of cartwheels, has not yet begun. There is only the sound of birdsong, a complex and beautiful tapestry of chirps, whistles, and calls. You sling a large, woven basket over your arm. It's light now, but you hope it will be heavy on your return. Your destination is the woods that border the village fields. This is not the dark, terrifying forest of fairy tales, a place of wolves and malevolent spirits. Well, not entirely. It is a managed, working landscape, a vital resource for the entire community. Villagers come here for firewood, for nuts and berries, for mushrooms, and for grazing their pigs. This access to the woods, known as commoning rights, is a widely accepted historical fact, a crucial element of the medieval peasant economy. Without the resources of the common lands, survival would be nearly impossible. You have these rights, like everyone else, but your purpose here is different. You aren't just looking for food or fuel, you are looking for medicine. The path is narrow and well-trodden, still slick with morning dew. You walk with a steady, practiced gait, your eyes scanning the ground and the tree-line. This is your other apothecary, the living one. Every plant, every tree, every patch of moss holds a potential purpose. You see not just a sea of green, but a complex map of remedies. Your gaze falls on a patch of broad-leafed plants with a prominent central stalk. Plantain. To the local farmers, it's a weed, an annoyance to be pulled from their fields. To you, it's a treasure. The leaves, when crushed, create a wonderfully soothing poultice for insect bites, stings, and minor scrapes. It's the original first aid ointment. You gather a generous handful, their cool, rubbery leaves feeling sturdy in your palm, and place them carefully in your basket. Further on, near the base of a gnarled oak tree, you spot a cluster of small, delicate flowers. Violets. You kneel, the damp earth seeping into your tunic. Their sweet, subtle fragrance is a small joy in the quiet morning. But you're not here for the scent. The flowers and leaves can be made into a syrup that is remarkably good for soothing a sore throat and a nagging cough. This is a gentler remedy, one you often use for children. You pick them with care, leaving plenty behind to ensure they'll return next year. It's a quirky detail that while the powerful and often toxic plants got the most attention, much of your daily work relies on these humble, gentle herbs that most people trample underfoot without a second thought. The light is growing stronger, filtering down through the canopy of leaves in shifting, dappled patterns. The air feels different in here, cooler and smelling of leaf mold, damp bark, and hidden, growing things. You pause, listening. A twig snaps in the distance. A deer, most likely. You are not afraid. You know the rhythms of this place, the secret paths, the places where the wild garlic grows thickest, the hollows where the best mushrooms sprout after a rain. You are a part of its ecosystem. Historians often debate the extent to which the medieval landscape was truly wild. While vast, untamed forests certainly existed, the woods near a village like yours were a managed environment, shaped by centuries of human use. The trees were coppiced for poles, the undergrowth cleared for grazing, and the resources carefully harvested. This wasn't a pristine wilderness, it was a larder and a lumberyard. Your trained eye spots what you came for, a sprawling, thorny bush covered in small, crinkled leaves. Raspberry. The berries are long gone, but it's the leaves you're after. Raspberry leaf tea is one of your most important tools, a powerful tonic for women, used to ease the pains of childbirth and regulate monthly cycles. You handle the thorny branches with practiced care, snapping off the youngest, most tender leaves and adding them to your basket. The collection is growing. Plantain for wounds, violets for coughs, raspberry leaves for women's troubles. Each one is a solution to a problem, an answer to a plea for help. As you turn to head back, you see a flash of red among the green. A mushroom, a fly agaric, with its iconic white-spotted red cap. It's beautiful, the very image of a storybook toadstool. It's also profoundly poisonous. You eye it with respect. A child might be tempted by its bright color, but you know its power. Some folk might whisper that a woman like you knows how to use such plants for darker purposes, for curses, for visions, for things best left unspoken. You know its secret, but the secret is simple. Leave it alone. Its beauty is a warning. The line between a healer and a poisoner is a thin one, drawn only by intent and knowledge. It's a reputation you have to manage with every poultice you mix and every tea you brew. Your basket is heavier now, filled with the green promise of healing. The sun has finally risen above the trees, and the mist is beginning to burn off. The village will be fully awake, the sounds of life carrying on the breeze. You retrace your steps, leaving the quiet hush of the woods behind. You have your supplies. Now it's time to turn them into medicine. The walk back feels different. You are no longer just a woman taking a morning stroll. You are returning with the tools of your trade, ready for whatever ailments the day might bring. You push the cottage door open, and the warmth from the hearth rushes out to greet you. The air inside is thick with the comforting smell of wood smoke, a stark contrast to the clean, damp air of the woods. The single room feels smaller now, more cluttered, but it's a clutter of purpose. Agnes the hen gives a soft, interrogative cluck from her corner, as if asking about your foraging success. You set the heavy basket down on your workbench, a sturdy, rough-hewn plank of wood resting on two barrels. This small, dedicated space is the nerve center of your entire operation. It may not look like a modern laboratory, but to you, it's just as precise. You begin the slow, methodical process of sorting your harvest. This is a ritual as important as the gathering itself. You lay the broad plantain leaves out on a clean, dry cloth, wiping away any clinging dirt or stray insects. Next, the delicate violets, which you handle with care to avoid bruising their petals. The raspberry leaves are last, their slightly fuzzy texture a familiar feeling under your fingertips. Everything must be clean. You understand on a deep, intuitive level that cleanliness is essential to healing. While the germ theory of disease is centuries away, the practical wisdom of using clean water, clean cloths, and clean hands is a cornerstone of your practice. It is a widely accepted fact that many folk healers and midwives, despite their lack of formal education, had a practical grasp of hygiene that often surpassed that of university-trained physicians of the era. Your apothecary is a study in preservation. A huge portion of your work is preparing for the future. The herbs you gather in the abundance of summer must last through the lean months of winter. Your primary method is drying. Bunches of herbs from previous foraging trips already hang from the rafters, rustling gently in the drafts. You tie the stems of the new raspberry leaves together with a bit of twine and add them to your collection, hanging them in a dry, airy spot away from the direct smoke of the fire. In a few weeks, they will be brittle and fragrant, their medicinal properties concentrated and preserved. The violets and plantain leaves require a different approach. They are best used fresh or turned into preparations that will last. You take a heavy stone mortar and a pestle from a shelf, your most essential tools. The rhythmic thump and grind of the pestle is one of the most common sounds in your cottage. You drop a handful of plantain leaves into the mortar and begin to crush them. The motion is second nature, a circular grinding that breaks down the tough fibers and releases the plant's healing juices. Soon, the leaves are reduced to a dark green, fragrant pulp. This is the base for a simple poultice. You might apply it directly to a wound, or mix it with a little honey or fat to create a more soothing salve. For the violets, you decide on a syrup. You have a small, precious store of honey, bartered from a farmer whose bees are particularly productive. You gently muddle the flowers in a small pot with a bit of water, just enough to draw out their color and essence. You'll warm this mixture later with the honey, creating a sweet, floral syrup that can soothe a child's cough without the fight that a bitter herbal tea might provoke. It's a quirky detail of your work. Sometimes the success of a remedy depends as much on its taste as its active ingredients. A medicine that a patient refuses to take is no medicine at all. You glance around your workspace. Small pottery jars, stoppered with cork or sealed with beeswax-soaked cloth, line the shelves. They contain your finished products. There's a dark, thick salve of comfrey and lard, excellent for mending bruises and setting bones. A jar of dried yarrow flowers, ready to be powdered to stop bleeding. A bottle of willow bark infusion, a bitter drink that eases aches and fevers, the original aspirin. Historians still debate the efficacy of many of these folk remedies. How much was placebo, and how much was genuine pharmacology? The answer is likely both. The willow bark contains salicin, a chemical precursor to aspirin, so its effect was real. The comfrey contains allantoin, which promotes cell growth. But the belief of the patient, and their trust in you, was a powerful ingredient in its own right. You are not just a dispenser of herbs, you are a purveyor of hope. Your apothecary is more than just herbs. You have a small box filled with other, stranger ingredients. A dried toad, a piece of badger skin, a string of snail shells. These are part of a different kind of medicine, one that works on sympathetic magic rather than herbal action. The logic, to a medieval mind, is sound. A dried toad, with its dry, wrinkled skin, could draw the damp humors out of a person suffering from dropsy. You don't rely on these as your primary tools, but you understand their power. For some patients, the sight of a familiar herb is not enough. They need to feel that a deeper, more mysterious magic is at work. You understand that healing the mind is often the first step to healing the body. The morning is slipping away. The sorting, the cleaning, the preparing, it all takes time. Your hands are stained green from the crushed plantain, and they smell of flowers and damp earth. The cottage is filled with the sounds and smells of your work, the gentle bubbling of the violet infusion, the rhythmic grinding of the mortar and pestle, the fragrant dust of dried herbs in the air. This is the quiet, unseen part of your job. Before the patients arrive with their fears and their pains, there is this peaceful, focused labor. You are stocking your arsenal, preparing your defenses, ensuring that when help is needed, you will be ready to provide it. You hear the sound before you see him, the hesitant crunch of boots on the gravelly path outside your cottage, followed by a long pause. This is the universal sound of a first-time patient. They've likely spent the morning debating whether to come at all, weighing their own suffering against the potential for village gossip. You wipe your hands on a cloth, the green stains from the plantain leaves now a faint smudge. You already know who it is. Thomas, one of the younger farmers from the other side of the village. You'd heard his wife, Eleanor, mention his cough at the well last week. She'd tried the usual home remedies, honey and horehound, a poultice of hot onions on his chest, but nothing had worked. Finally, a soft, almost apologetic knock comes at the door. It's a timid sound, not the confident rap of a neighbor dropping off a bundle of firewood. You call out for him to enter, your voice calm and even. The door creaks open, and Thomas ducks his head to enter, blinking as his eyes adjust to the smoky dimness of your home. He's a big man, built for the hard labor of the fields, but he seems to shrink in this small space, his broad shoulders hunched. He clutches a small cloth bundle in his hands, his knuckles white. "Good morning, Thomas," you say, keeping your tone gentle. Fear is a common symptom, and it often needs to be treated before the ailment itself. Eleanor mentioned you've a cough that won't leave you be. He nods, avoiding your eyes. His gaze darts around the cottage, taking in the hanging herbs, the bubbling pots, the unfamiliar tools of your trade. To him, this might as well be the workshop of an alchemist. "Aye," he rasps, and the sound that comes out is a dry, rattling wheeze that seems to catch in his chest. "It's a devil. Sits right here." He thumps his sternum with a fist. "Keeps me from my sleep and the wife too." You gesture for him to sit on a low stool near the hearth. He does so awkwardly, placing the cloth bundle on his knees. It's likely his payment, and you pretend not to notice it for now. The transaction must follow the consultation. It's a matter of professional courtesy. "Breathe for me," you say. You move closer, not to touch him, but to listen. This is the first step of your diagnosis. You listen to the quality of the cough, the sound of his lungs. Is it wet or dry? Deep or shallow? Does it come in spasms? This careful observation is your primary diagnostic tool. While university-trained physicians were often preoccupied with complex theories of the four humors, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, your approach is far more practical and patient-focused. This reliance on direct observation is a widely accepted fact about folk healers. Their medicine was empirical, based on generations of trial and error. Thomas takes a breath and it ends in a series of harsh, barking coughs that shake his entire frame. It sounds dry, like shaking pebbles in a gourd. When he's finished, he leans forward, exhausted. "It's been a fortnight," he says, his voice hoarse. "Getting worse." You nod slowly. You've seen this before. It's not the damp, phlegmy cough of a winter cold. It's something deeper, an irritation in the lungs, likely stirred up by the dust of the recent threshing. You need something to soothe the inflammation and help his body produce a more productive cough to clear whatever is settled in his chest. "I have something that will help," you say with confidence. You move back to your workbench. He watches your every move, a mixture of hope and suspicion in his eyes. You don't reach for a dried toad or a mysterious, bubbling potion. You reach for a familiar friend, the mallow plant. You have a large bundle of dried mallow roots and leaves. It's not a rare or exotic ingredient. It grows freely along the local stream. But you know its secret. Mallow is a powerful demulcent, meaning it's rich in a slimy, soothing substance called mucilage. It's the perfect remedy for a dry, irritated cough. You measure out a portion of the chopped, dried root and leaves into a small linen bag. Then you add a pinch of thyme, not for magic, but because its aromatic oils help to open the airways. A modern observer would be surprised by the sound pharmacological logic at play. Thyme contains thymol, a natural antiseptic and expectorant. This combination of herbs is a genuinely effective treatment. It's a quirky detail that many of these wise woman recipes, when analyzed today, reveal a sophisticated understanding of plant chemistry, even if the practitioners themselves couldn't explain it in scientific terms. You hand the small bag to Thomas. Boil this in water every evening before you sleep, you instruct. Breathe in the steam first, then drink the tea down while it's warm. Add a spoonful of honey if you have it. You also give him a small pot of the violet syrup you were preparing earlier, and a spoonful of this in the morning, just to soothe the throat. He takes the remedies, his big, calloused hands surprisingly gentle. He seems relieved. The instructions were simple, the ingredients recognizable. You haven't asked him to bury a dead cat at a crossroads or chant backwards under a full moon. Historians still debate the role of the supernatural in folk healing. While charms and incantations were certainly used, was it the core of the practice, or was it a supplement to a largely herbal and practical tradition? Your approach suggests the latter. You provide real medicine, but you also understand the patient's need for reassurance. Thomas finally places the cloth bundle on your workbench. "For your trouble," he mutters. He unfolds it to reveal half a dozen fresh eggs and a small, hard wheel of cheese. It's a generous payment. Eggs are precious, a source of protein that's easy to store and cook. The cheese will last for weeks. This is how your economy works. Your skills are a vital part of the village, and the community supports you in turn. "Thank you, Thomas," you say, accepting the gift. "And tell Eleanor to rest. I know she's been worrying." With that final, personal touch, you've treated not just the cough, but the anxiety that surrounds it. Thomas manages a small smile, the first one you've seen on his face. He thanks you again, ducks his head, and slips back out into the bright morning, leaving the scent of fresh air and faint apprehension behind. You turn back to your hearth, another life touched, another small victory won against the daily hardships of this world. With Thomas and his rattling cough gone, you turn your attention back to your supplies. The eggs and cheese are a welcome addition to your larder, and you store them carefully in a cool, dark corner of the cottage. His visit has put you in a certain frame of mind, thinking about the remedies you use every day versus the ones you keep in reserve for more stubborn cases. Or for patients who expect something a little more dramatic. You pick up a large, firm onion from a basket near the hearth. It's a humble vegetable, a staple of the medieval diet, but in your hands, it's a versatile and surprisingly potent medicinal tool. You hold it, feeling its dry, papery skin. The onion is a perfect example of the doctrine of signatures, a widely accepted medical philosophy of the time. This theory held that God had marked plants with a sign, or signature, indicating their purpose. A plant with heart-shaped leaves was good for the heart. A plant with yellow flowers could cure jaundice. The onion, when cut, makes you cry, producing water and clearing your sinuses. Therefore, it must be excellent for ailments involving excess moisture or blockage. Need to draw out the venom from a bee's sting? A slice of raw onion. Need to break a fever? Slices of onion on the soles of the feet, bound up in cloth overnight. The logic is, to the modern mind, deeply strange, yet it possesses an internal consistency that people found reassuring. You decide to make a fresh batch of cough syrup, this one stronger than the gentle violet preparation you gave Thomas. You chop the onion finely, your eyes watering instantly from the sharp fumes. You layer the chopped pieces in a small pot with a thick, dark honey. The honey isn't just for taste, it's a powerful medicine in its own right, a natural antiseptic and preservative. You'll leave this mixture to sit near the warm hearth for a day, allowing the honey to draw out the onion's potent juices. The resulting syrup will be eye-wateringly strong, but remarkably effective at breaking up chest congestion. It's a classic, passed down for generations. But the onion is just the beginning. Your apothecary, like that of many folk healers, contains a veritable pharmacopoeia of bizarre and questionable cures. This is the quirky and often humorous side of medieval medicine. You have a small, tightly sealed jar containing powdered earthworms. Dried and pulverized, they were considered an excellent, if gritty, remedy for muscle aches and pains. The logic? Worms are strong and flexible and can move through the earth with ease. Therefore, they must grant similar properties to the stiff and aching limbs of a patient. You haven't had to use it in a while, for which your patients are probably grateful. Then there is the matter of animal dung. A poultice made from the dung of a white dog was believed to be highly effective for soothing a sore throat when applied externally in a wrap. Goose droppings were recommended for treating baldness. Historians have confirmed the use of these remedies through surviving medieval texts, but still debate their precise origin. Was it a form of sympathetic magic, a desperate, try-anything approach, or did some of these remedies, by sheer accident, contain beneficial properties? For instance, some animal dung contains mold and bacteria that could have had antibiotic effects, a microscopic lottery that might occasionally pay off. You keep a small, dry sample of goose droppings wrapped in a cloth, just in case a particularly vain landowner comes knocking. You doubt it works, but hope is its own kind of medicine. You smile to yourself as you stir the onion and honey mixture. You are a pragmatist. You rely on what you know works, the mallow root, the willow bark, the yarrow. But you also understand the psychology of your patients. Sometimes a cure needs to feel powerful, a little strange, even a little unpleasant, for the patient to believe in it. If a man believes that wearing a bag of dried toad around his neck will ward off the plague, who are you to argue? The belief itself is a shield. The line between medicine and magic, between pharmacology and faith, is blurry and indistinct. You also have remedies for less physical ailments. To ward off nightmares, you might recommend placing a knife under the patient's bed to cut the bad dreams. To cure a child of warts, you might instruct the mother to rub the warts with a piece of bacon, then bury the bacon in the yard. As the bacon rots away in the earth, the warts will vanish. It sounds like pure superstition, but modern medicine has documented the remarkable success of placebos, especially in treating conditions like warts, which have a strong psychosomatic component. You are, in your own way, a master of the placebo effect. You move away from the workbench and add a small log to the fire. It's a slow-burning piece of oak that will provide a steady, even heat. Your day is filled with these small, practical moments of work, but your mind is always cataloging, remembering. Which remedies have worked best? What were the exact symptoms of the last child with a fever? This constant mental inventory, this library of experience, is your most valuable asset. The onion in the honey is already beginning to release its pungent liquid. The cottage smells less like an apothecary and more like the beginnings of a very strange soup. You are a healer, an herbalist, a pharmacist, and, on days like today, a slightly eccentric chef. And you wouldn't have it any other way. The strangeness is part of the craft, a reminder that the world is a mysterious place, and the solutions to its problems can sometimes be found in the most unlikely of ingredients. A sudden urgency interrupts your quiet work. It's not a knock this time, but the breathless arrival of a young boy, his face flushed and his eyes wide. It's Peter, the blacksmith's eldest son. He doesn't even wait for you to ask. "It's my mother," he pants, his small chest heaving. "My father sent me. The babe is coming." This is the call you are always prepared for, the one that carries the most weight. You are not just a mender of coughs and a soother of scrapes, you are a midwife. This role places you at the very center of the community's life, and its moments of greatest joy and deepest peril. You grab a specific, pre-packed leather bag from a hook by the door. It contains not just herbs, but clean linen cloths, a sharp knife, and a small flask of strong wine, as much for the mother's courage as for any medicinal purpose. "Tell your father I am coming," you say to Peter, your voice calm and authoritative. He nods, relieved to have passed on the message, and sprints back toward the village proper. You take a moment to bank the fire, ensuring the cottage will be safe in your absence, then you follow him, your walk now brisk and purposeful. The village is bustling now, the air filled with the clang of the blacksmith's hammer, Peter's father. A sound you now know is full of anxious energy, the lowing of cattle, and the chatter of people at the well. A few women see you with your bag and know immediately where you are going. They give you a nod, a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of your task. You arrive at the blacksmith's cottage, a place usually filled with the roar of the forge and the smell of hot metal. Today it's quiet. John, the blacksmith, a mountain of a man who can shape iron with his bare hands, looks utterly lost. He wrings his hands, his face pale under the soot. "She's in the bedchamber," he says, his voice a low rumble of fear. "It's been since dawn." You give his arm a reassuring squeeze and enter the small, partitioned-off sleeping area. It's dark and stuffy, the air thick with the scent of sweat and anticipation. Mary, his wife, is lying on the straw-stuffed bed, her face beaded with perspiration, her knuckles white where she grips a small wooden icon of Saint Margaret, the patron saint of childbirth. 2 other women from the village are with her, offering sips of water and words of encouragement. This is a woman's world, a sacred space where men are not permitted. The widely accepted historical fact is that childbirth was almost exclusively managed by women. Male physicians, when they existed, rarely attended births, considering it beneath their dignity and outside their expertise. You are now in charge. Your presence changes the atmosphere in the room, bringing a sense of professional calm. You speak in a low, soothing voice to Mary, asking her about the pains, their frequency, their strength. You check the position of the baby with your skilled, gentle hands. Everything seems to be progressing as it should, but slowly. Childbirth in this era is a marathon, not a sprint, and your primary role is one of patience and support. You send one of the women for a bucket of fresh, clean water. You unwrap your linen cloths, which you laundered and bleached in the sun until they were stiff and clean. You wash your hands and arms thoroughly. Again, this emphasis on cleanliness is your greatest tool against the ever-present threat of childbed fever, the infection that claims the lives of so many new mothers. It's a quirky and life-saving detail that while the great medical minds of the age debated abstract theories, midwives were on the front lines, practicing a rudimentary but effective form of antisepsis based on common sense. To help things along, you prepare a tea from the raspberry leaves you gathered this very morning. You have Mary sip it slowly. You also have her get up and walk, leaning on you and the other women for support. Keeping the mother upright and mobile uses gravity to help the baby descend, a piece of ancient wisdom that modern obstetrics has enthusiastically rediscovered. The room is a small world of female solidarity, filled with murmurs, groans, and quiet reassurances. The other women share stories of their own births, a web of shared experience that provides comfort and strength. Hours pass. The light outside the small shuttered window shifts from the bright white of midday to the warm, golden hue of late afternoon. Mary is exhausted, her courage wavering. This is the critical point, the moment where a midwife earns her reputation. You stay by her side, your voice a constant, calming presence. You wipe her brow with a cool, damp cloth. You hold her hand, letting her squeeze as hard as she needs to during a contraction. You are the anchor in her storm. Historians still wonder about the specific techniques used for difficult births. What happened when the baby was in the wrong position or when the labor stalled completely? The records are sparse, often written by churchmen who condemn these practices as witchcraft. Did you know how to turn a baby in the womb? Did you possess instruments, passed down in secret, to aid in a dangerous delivery? Or was your only recourse prayer and herbs, and the terrible knowledge of when a life could not be saved? Your bag contains no fearsome metal tools, only your hands, your knowledge, and your nerve. Finally, the moment comes. With a final, heroic effort from Mary and your steady guidance, the baby is born. A lusty cry fills the small, tense room, breaking the spell of pain and replacing it with a wave of overwhelming relief. It's a healthy girl, slick and beautiful. Your hands are sure and swift as you clean the infant, check her breathing, and tie off the umbilical cord with a clean piece of linen thread. You wrap her in a warm blanket and place her in her mother's arms. The look of exhausted, radiant joy on Mary's face is your true payment. You have done it. You have navigated the treacherous passage between one life and two, bringing both mother and child through safely. The immediate danger has passed, but your work is not over. You will stay for a while longer, ensuring the afterbirth is delivered cleanly and that Mary is comfortable. You will visit again tomorrow and the day after, to check on them both, to offer advice on nursing, and to watch for any signs of fever. You have acted not as a witch, but as a skilled practitioner, a counselor, and a pillar of your community, performing a sacred and dangerous trust with the competence born of experience. You leave the blacksmith's cottage as the sky is beginning to blush with the first hints of sunset. The air is cooler now, and the day's frantic energy has softened into the weary rhythms of evening. John the blacksmith meets you at the door, his face a mess of tear tracks and soot. He tries to speak, but only manages a choked sound of gratitude. He presses a small, heavy object into your hand. You don't look at it until you are a few steps away. It's a newly forged iron trivet, a small stand to place a hot pot on by the hearth. It's beautifully made, its 3 legs perfectly balanced, a piece of his finest work. It's a gift of immense value, not in coin, but in skill and thankfulness. You hold it tight, the metal still faintly warm, a tangible piece of the day's success. Walking back to your own small home, you reflect on the invisible tools you used during Mary's labor. Alongside the raspberry leaf tea and your knowledge of anatomy, there was a constant, quiet undercurrent of prayer. You whispered a prayer to St. Margaret as the labor stalled. You made the sign of the cross over the infant's head the moment she was born. These were not empty gestures. For you and the women in that room, they were as essential as the clean cloths and the warm water. They were a direct appeal to a power greater than your own, a plea for divine assistance in a matter of life and death. This is the delicate dance you perform every day. You live in a world saturated with faith. The church is the center of the village, not just geographically but culturally. The tolling of its bell marks the hours of the day. Its calendar dictates the rhythm of the year with feasts and fasts. Your healing practices must exist within this framework, or they risk being seen as something sinister. The use of Christian prayers and saints in healing was a widely accepted historical fact. Far from being seen as pagan, it was a common practice to Christianize older folk traditions, blending them seamlessly with the dominant faith. A prayer could be a kind of holy prescription. You reach your cottage, the iron trivet a satisfying weight in your hand. You push the door open and the familiar smell of smoke and dried herbs welcomes you. The fire is low, just as you left it. As you stir the embers back to life, you think about the charms you know. These are different from prayers. A prayer is a request, an act of supplication to God. A charm is more like a command, an attempt to bend the world to your will using specific words and actions. The line is incredibly fine, and crossing it can be dangerous. For example, to staunch a wound, you might press a cobweb to it, a practical choice, as the web helps blood to clot. But you might also whisper a charm while doing it, something like, "Blood, blood, stand still," as the water stood in the River Jordan when Christ was baptized. By invoking a sacred event, you are attempting to channel its power into your healing. Is this a prayer or a spell? To the parish priest, it's a worrisome ambiguity. To you, it's simply a method that works. This blending of the sacred and the profane is one of the quirkiest details of medieval life. People saw no contradiction in attending Mass on Sunday and then using a charm to find a lost cow on Monday. They lived in an enchanted world, where the supernatural was not a separate realm but was woven into the fabric of everyday existence. You have a collection of these charms in your head, rhymes and riddles for everything from toothaches to sour milk. You might tell a farmer to walk his sick cow through the smoke of a specific bonfire to purify it, or to tie a red thread around a child's wrist to ward off evil spirits. Historians still debate how these practices were truly perceived by the authorities. Was there a clear-cut war between church doctrine and folk magic, or was there a much wider gray area of tolerance, especially in rural, isolated villages like yours? The evidence suggests it varied wildly. A sympathetic priest might turn a blind eye to the local wise woman's charms, seeing them as harmless superstitions that brought comfort to his flock. A more zealous, ambitious cleric might see the same practices as evidence of heresy and witchcraft, a chance to make a name for himself by rooting out evil. Your relationship with the local clergy is, therefore, one of constant, careful navigation. You place the new trivet by your hearth, its dark iron a stark, beautiful shape against the warm stone. It's a reminder of a birth, a new life. But you also know charms for the other side of the coin. You know words to whisper during a burial to ensure the soul's peaceful journey, and others to protect the house from restless spirits. You are a steward of life's great transitions, birth, sickness, and death. And each transition has its own set of rituals, some blessed by the church, some tolerated, and some that you keep carefully to yourself. You don't see yourself as a heretic. Your faith is as genuine as the blacksmith's. You believe in God, the Virgin Mary, and the power of the saints. But you also believe in the power that resides in the earth, in the leaves of the raspberry bush, in the heat of the fire, and in the quiet authority of spoken words. To you, it is all part of the same sacred mystery. You are a bridge between worlds, between the practical and the spiritual, the observable and the unseen. Tonight, as you sit by your newly revived fire, you feel the weight of that responsibility, a quiet hum of power and peril that is the constant companion to your life's work. The next morning, the sun streams through the shuttered window in dusty shafts, illuminating the dancing motes of smoke and herb dust that perpetually fill your cottage. The successful birth at the blacksmith's has already become village news, and you can expect a small but steady stream of visitors today. Your work is rarely a single, dramatic event. It's a constant, low-level thrum of community care. Your first visitor is not a patient, but Eleanor, the farmer's wife whose husband, Thomas, you treated for the cough. She arrives with a smile and a large, round loaf of dark rye bread, still warm from her oven. The scent of it, yeasty, earthy, and deeply comforting, fills your small home. "He slept through the night," she says, her voice full of a relief that makes her look years younger. "First time in a week. That tea of yours, it smells frightful, but bless you, it works." You smile and accept the bread, placing it on your workbench. The thyme helps to open the chest. The mallow soothes the scratching. It is a good mix. You don't mention the pharmacological properties of thymol or mucilage. You speak the language of your patients, scratching, soothing, opening. This exchange is the bedrock of your existence. You have provided a service, and she is paying you. Not with clinking silver coins, those are rare in the village, hoarded by the reeve for the Lord's taxes, but with something far more valuable, food. This system of barter and exchange is a widely accepted historical fact of medieval peasant life. The village economy runs on a complex web of obligation, favor, and the direct trade of goods and labor. A farmer might pay the blacksmith with a sack of grain, who in turn might shoe the miller's horse in exchange for a share of flour. You are an essential node in this network. Later in the morning, a woman named Agnes, the village is full of Agnesas, it's a popular name, comes by. Her youngest has a case of cradle cap, a common crusty rash on the scalp. You give her a small pot of a gentle calendula-infused oil you made last summer, the bright yellow flowers lending their soothing anti-inflammatory properties to the mix. It smells faintly of sunshine and honey. In return, Agnes gives you a bundle of kindling, neatly tied, enough to start your fire for a week. She is poor, a widow, and has little to spare, but she has time and access to the woods. She pays with her labor, and her contribution is as valuable to you as the blacksmith's ironwork. Your day continues in this rhythm. A young boy with a badly scraped knee from falling out of a tree leaves with a plantain poultice and a stern but kindly warning about climbing too high. His mother promises you a pail of fresh milk from their cow tomorrow morning. An old man, his back stiff from a lifetime of bending in the fields, comes for a pot of your comfrey and lard salve. He can't offer you food, but he is a skilled woodworker. He promises to repair the loose leg on your stool, a task you've been meaning to get to for months. This system has a beauty to it. It's personal, based on relationships and mutual trust. Unlike a transaction with coins, which is anonymous and final, bartering creates an ongoing bond. Eleanor won't just forget about you after Thomas is well. She will remember your help every time she bakes bread. The old man will think of you every time he sits on his own sturdy stool without a wobble. It's a quirky detail of a pre-capitalist society that wealth wasn't just about accumulation, it was about the strength of your relationships. Your standing in the community is your bank account, and today, you are quite rich. However, historians still debate the true fairness and stability of such a system. What happens when you need something from someone who doesn't need your services? What if the harvest is bad, and no one has any surplus to share? A barter economy is fragile, highly dependent on the prosperity and goodwill of the community. A string of failed remedies or a turn in village opinion could leave you destitute in a way that a person with a hoard of coins could never be. Your reputation is not just a matter of pride, it's the cornerstone of your survival. By midday, you have accumulated a small pile of goods. The bread, the promise of milk, a small handful of turnips from another visitor. It's more than enough for your own needs. You will eat the bread and turnips for your supper, drink the milk for your breakfast. Nothing is wasted. You look at the small pile of goods, a testament to the trust the village places in you. Each item represents a person, a story, a small piece of suffering eased. There is, of course, a darker side to the bartering. Sometimes people come to you with problems they cannot speak of, and they offer payments that reflect their desperation. A small, intricately carved wooden bird, clearly a treasured object, given by a young woman who needed herbs to bring on a late bleeding. A single, precious silver penny, saved for an emergency, pressed into your hand by a man seeking a remedy for his flagging virility. These transactions are silent, the needs unspoken but perfectly understood. You accept the payments without question, offering the same quiet, non-judgmental care you give to everyone. You are a repository of the village's secrets, a fact that gives you both power and vulnerability. Your discretion is as valuable as any of your herbal cures, and it is a service for which people are willing to pay dearly. For now, the day is simple. The exchanges are open and honest. You sit on your soon-to-be-repaired stool, chewing on a thick slice of Eleanor's warm bread. It tastes of rye, of wood smoke, of gratitude. It is the taste of a job well done. The afternoon sun is slanting low, casting long shadows across the village, when you see him approaching. It's Father Michael, the parish priest. He walks with a deliberate, steady pace, his dark woolen cassock swishing just above the dusty ground. He is neither old nor young, a man whose face is a map of sincere piety and chronic indigestion. His visits are never purely social. They are a careful, delicate probing of the boundaries between your world and his. He stops a few feet from your open door, a habit of his, as if crossing the threshold would be a concession of some kind. "Good day," he says, his voice a practiced, resonant baritone meant to fill the rafters of his church. Here, in the open air, it sounds a little too loud. "And to you, Father," you reply, wiping your hands on your apron. You don't invite him in, playing along with the unspoken rules of this recurring encounter. A beautiful evening is settling on us. Indeed, God's grace is in the light, he says, his eyes scanning your doorway, the hanging herbs, the smoke curling from the hole in your roof. He is always looking, always assessing. I was just at the blacksmith's forge to offer a prayer of thanks for the new child. This is his opening move. He is letting you know that he has sanctified your work, brought it under the protective wing of the church. He is also reminding you and anyone who might be listening of the proper order of things. God's grace comes first, your herbal remedies a distant second. A strong girl, you say simply. Mary is a strong woman. The Lord provides, he says, a phrase that is both a statement of faith and a subtle correction. The relationship between folk healers and the church was complex and often contradictory. A widely accepted historical fact is that throughout much of the early medieval period, the church had a relatively tolerant view of folk medicine. Monasteries were centers of herbal learning, and many priests recognized the practical value of local healers. It was only later, as fears of heresy and witchcraft intensified, that this wary tolerance began to curd into outright persecution. Your relationship with Father Michael exists in that precarious middle ground. He clears his throat. I have come about the widow Elspeth. Her rheumatics are acting up again. The damp, I suppose. I administered the last rites to her brother last winter, and she has a great fear of suffering. This is the nature of your wary friendship. He is the guardian of his flock's souls, but you are the custodian of their aching bodies. He cannot, with prayer alone, soothe Elspeth's swollen joints. He needs you, but he cannot be seen to endorse your practices too openly. So he comes to you like this, framing his request as a matter of pastoral care. It's a quirky, unacknowledged partnership. You provide the physical relief that makes his spiritual comfort more accessible. A person in agony has little time for prayer. The willow bark tea is best for that, you say, already moving to prepare a small bundle. And the comfrey salve to rub on the joints. Tell her to keep warm and stay out of the evening mist. He nods, relieved to be on the practical ground of instruction. Yes, the salve. She said the last batch was a great comfort. He watches as you measure out the dried, shredded bark of the willow tree. He knows, on some level, that your remedies work. He has seen it too many times to deny it. He has seen fevers break, wounds heal, and pains subside after a visit to your cottage. Historians still debate the personal beliefs of priests like Father Michael. Did he genuinely see you as a partner in care, a fellow soldier in the war against suffering? Or did he view you as a necessary evil, a practitioner of suspect arts whose usefulness occasionally outweighed your potential for spiritual danger? His next words give you a clue. You must be mindful, he says, his tone shifting from practical to pastoral. These herbs are God's creation, given for our benefit. But it is by his will that they heal, not by any inherent power within the plants themselves. Or in the words one might say over them. It's a gentle warning, a reminder of the theological line you must not cross. He has heard the whispers of your charms, the rhymes you teach children for warts. He is telling you to stay on the right side of that line, the side of prayer, not incantation. He is protecting you in his own way. By reining you in, he keeps you from drawing the attention of more severe authorities, like the bishop or his agents. It's a form of professional courtesy, a quiet agreement to not make trouble for each other. You hand him the small cloth bag containing the willow bark and a small wooden pot of salve. I only offer what the earth provides, Father. The rest is in God's hands. It is the perfect, non-committal answer. It satisfies his need for piety and protects your professional independence. He takes the remedies, his fingers brushing yours for a moment. His hand is soft and used to manual labor. The parish is grateful for your diligence, he says, the slight hesitation in his voice telling you everything you need to know about his internal conflict. He turns to leave, his duty done. He has secured medicine for a suffering parishioner and delivered a subtle theological correction, all without setting foot in your potentially pagan cottage. As he walks away, his dark form shrinking in the twilight, you are left with the familiar ambiguity of your relationship. He is your ally and your overseer, your colleague and your potential accuser. You are both servants of the same village, tending to its needs in your own separate, and sometimes overlapping ways. And for now, that fragile peace holds. The next day, you take your empty water buckets and head to the village well. The sun is already high and warm, and the well is the center of the village's social life, especially for the women. It's a place of news, of laughter, and most importantly, of gossip. As you approach, you can hear the cheerful chatter and the rhythmic creak of the winch as buckets are lowered and raised. Several women are gathered there, their conversations weaving together in a complex harmony. The well itself is a simple structure, a low stone wall encircling a deep, dark hole, with a wooden roof to keep out leaves and birds. Turning the heavy winch is hard work, and women often help each other, sharing the labor and the time. This communal space was the primary source of news and social connection for women in a world where their movements were often restricted to the home and the church. The information exchanged here was a form of power. As you join the group, you are greeted with warm smiles and nods. The news of the blacksmith's baby girl has spread like wildfire, and you are the hero of the hour. "Mary is looking well, bless her," says one woman, shifting her own baby on her hip. "You have good hands, gentle hands." "It was an easy birth, all things considered," you reply with practiced modesty. To boast of your skill would be to tempt fate. Better to give credit to the mother's strength and God's will. You wait your turn, listening to the flow of conversation. They talk of ordinary things: the price of wool, a cow that has gone dry, a son who is growing too fast for his tunic. But then the tone shifts. The voices drop a little, becoming more conspiratorial. They are talking about the miller's wife, Martha. "She's bought another ribbon," one woman whispers, though her whisper carries easily in the still air. "A blue one. Silk, they say." "Silk," another woman scoffs. "Where does a miller's wife get the coin for silk ribbons, I ask you, when the rest of us are patching our patches?" This is how it starts. A small observation, an object that is slightly out of place, slightly too fine for a person's station. It's a tiny crack in the village's social fabric, and the gossip rushes in to pry it wider. The miller is a constant source of suspicion in any medieval village. He is one of the few people who deals directly with coin, and it is a widely accepted historical fact that millers were almost universally accused of cheating their customers, taking more than their fair share of the flour they ground. His prosperity, therefore, is seen as ill-gotten. "And her butter," the first woman adds, her eyes gleaming. "Have you seen it? Yellow as a summer dandelion even now. Mine is pale as a ghost." This is where your ears perk up. This isn't just jealousy, it's an accusation that brushes against your own world. Unnaturally yellow butter in the off-season could mean the cow is getting special fodder, or it could mean something else. It could imply the use of a charm to make the cow more productive, to steal the fat from a neighbor's milk. It's a quirky but common accusation of low-level witchcraft, one that has more to do with economics than with satanic pacts. People believed it was possible to magically siphon off the luck or prosperity of a neighbor. You stay silent, focusing on winding the rope for your own bucket. You know Martha, the miller's wife. You treated her for a burn last year. She is a quiet, anxious woman, desperate to keep up appearances. The silk ribbon was probably an foolish extravagance, a small attempt to feel beautiful in a hard world. And the butter? Her husband likely bought her a cow from a better bloodline. But the gossip is more exciting than the truth. Historians still debate the true function of gossip in these small, closed communities. Was it simply a malicious pastime, a way to enforce social norms and punish those who stepped out of line? Or did it serve a more complex purpose, acting as a way of sharing information, building alliances, and navigating the intricate social hierarchy of the village? Listening to the women around the well, you can see both forces at work. They are reinforcing their own solidarity by isolating Martha, while also sharing vital information about the village's perceived economic inequalities. They say she buries an egg under her doorstep every full moon. Another woman adds, her voice barely audible. For luck. Now the accusation is explicit. Burying an egg, a symbol of fertility and life, is a classic folk charm. It's exactly the kind of thing Father Michael warned you about. It's not devil worship, but it's not sanctioned by the church either. It's a private, magical act intended to increase personal wealth, and in a community where resources are finite, one person's gain is often seen as another's loss. Your buckets are full now, heavy and sloshing with cold, clear water. You nod your goodbyes to the women, your face a neutral mask. You offer no opinion on the miller's wife, her ribbons, or her suspiciously yellow butter. You cannot afford to. To defend her would be to associate yourself with her and her alleged practices. To join in the condemnation would be to throw a fellow woman to the wolves, and you know how easily the pack can turn on a new target. Your silence is your shield. As you walk back to your cottage, the heavy buckets pulling at your shoulders, you feel a familiar unease. The whispers at the well are a constant reminder of the precariousness of your position. You are respected today because the blacksmith's daughter is healthy. But what if the next birth goes wrong? What if a remedy fails? The same women who praise your gentle hands could just as easily whisper that you have the evil eye. Your reputation is not a solid foundation of stone, but a delicate construction of straw, rebuilt every day with successful outcomes and careful, diplomatic silence. The wind of gossip is always blowing, and you must be constantly vigilant that it doesn't blow your house down. A few days later, a sense of quiet dread begins to settle in your stomach. It's about Thomas, the farmer with the cough. His wife, Eleanor, hasn't been to the well in 2 days, and you haven't seen her at the small market that gathers near the church. In a village this small, such an absence is conspicuous. You tell yourself it's nothing. Perhaps Thomas is better, and they are busy in the fields. But the doubt, once planted, begins to sprout. The mallow and thyme tea is a good remedy, one you've used 100 times. It should have worked. The confirmation of your fears arrives in the form of a small, frightened-looking child, Thomas's youngest son, who appears at your door late in the afternoon. He doesn't have the breathless urgency of the blacksmith's boy, but a sullen, downcast air. He hands you a small cloth bundle without a word. You open it. Inside are the remedies you provided, the bag of dried herbs, now damp and used, and the small pot of violet syrup, half empty. The message is clear. These did not work. My mother says to thank you, the boy mumbles, staring at his feet. But my father's cough is worse. There's blood in it now. Blood. The word hangs in the air of your cottage, heavy and cold. This changes everything. A dry, dusty cough is one thing. A cough that brings up blood is a sign of something far more serious, something deep within the lungs that your simple herbs cannot touch. It could be a severe inflammation, a festering wound in the lung, or the dreaded consumption, a slow, wasting disease that almost never ends well. You feel a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature of the room. This is the moment every healer fears. The failure of a remedy is not just a medical setback. It's a crack in the foundation of your authority. You are the woman who is supposed to know. Your knowledge is your currency, your power, your protection. And now it has proven insufficient. I see, you say, your voice softer than you intended. You look at the boy's worried face. Tell your mother I will think on it. A stronger preparation is needed. He nods and scurries away, glad to be free of your strange, smoky house and its failed magic. You are left alone with the rejected remedies. You stare at the damp bag of mallow and thyme. Did you use the wrong herbs? Was the batch old, its potency faded? Or is this simply an illness that is beyond your power to heal? This is the fundamental, terrifying limitation of your craft. You are working with a limited toolkit against a vast and often unknowable array of ailments. The widely accepted historical fact is that medieval healers, for all their herbal knowledge, had no way of fighting bacterial infections like pneumonia or tuberculosis. Their remedies could soothe symptoms, but they could not cure the underlying disease. You begin to pace the small confines of your cottage, your mind racing. You could try a stronger expectorant, like elecampane root, or a poultice of mustard and flour on his chest to draw out the sickness. But you know deep down that these are unlikely to work if the illness has progressed this far. The trust of Thomas's family is gone. They will not want to try another of your simple herbal teas. They will be desperate, and desperation leads people to two places: the priest for prayers and last rites, or to someone who offers a more powerful, more dangerous kind of magic. The whispers at the well come back to you. The women who praised your gentle hands a few days ago will soon be whispering something else. She helped the blacksmith's wife, but she couldn't cure a simple cough. The narrative will shift. Your success with Mary's birth will be recast as luck, a fluke. This failure with Thomas will be seen as the true measure of your skill. It's a quirky, brutal detail of your profession. You are only as good as your last cure. Historians still debate how communities rationalize these failures. When a folk remedy failed, was the healer blamed for incompetence or even malice? Or was the illness simply seen as God's will, an inescapable fate? The answer is likely a mixture of both. A pious family might resign themselves to fate. A frightened and angry one would need a target for their grief and fear. And the local healer, the one who promised a cure and failed to deliver, is the most obvious target. You sink onto your stool, the weight of the situation pressing down on you. This is more than just a professional failure. It's a direct threat to your livelihood, your reputation, and even your safety. You think of Martha, the miller's wife, and the gossip that swirls around her for something as trivial as a silk ribbon. What will they whisper about a woman whose patient is coughing up blood? They might say your herbs were soured, or that you used the wrong charm. Or they might say something worse, that the illness wasn't a natural one to begin with, that it was caused by a curse. And if you, the healer, cannot lift it, perhaps it is because you were the one who laid it in the first place. The setting sun paints the inside of your cottage in shades of orange and deep red, the color of fire, the color of blood. The rejected remedies sit on your workbench, a monument to your failure. You feel a profound sense of helplessness, not just for Thomas, but for yourself. You are walking a tightrope, and the wind of misfortune is beginning to blow. You have no recourse, no court of appeal. There is only the court of public opinion, held daily at the village well, and you fear the verdict is already being decided. Darkness falls early in the village, a deep, thick blackness unbroken by streetlights. The only illumination comes from the moon and the faint, ruddy glow of hearth fires visible through small shuttered windows. You sit by your fire, the embers warm against the cold earthen floor. The events of the afternoon, the return of Thomas's failed remedies, the news of the blood in his cough, weigh heavily on your mind. You are trying to figure out what, if anything, you can still do for him, but you know that your next move must be careful. If you fail a second time, it may confirm the suspicions of those who are already looking for reasons to distrust you. You are about to bank the fire for the night when a sound makes you freeze. It's not the gentle crunch of boots you heard from Thomas earlier. It's a sharp, frantic rapping on your door. A knock in the dead of night is rarely good news. It could be a difficult birth, or a sudden, severe injury. But the rhythm of this knock, fast and desperate, feels different. You move to the door, your hand hovering over the latch. "Who is it?" you call out, keeping your voice low. A whispered, ragged voice answers. It is John. John the blacksmith." You unlatch the heavy oak door and pull it open a crack. John's face is barely visible in the dark, his breath a puff of white in the cold air. He is pale, his eyes wide and fearful. He looks nothing like the grateful, strong man you left a few days ago. He steps inside quickly, pulling the door shut behind him and blocking the meager light. "What is it, John? Is Mary all right? The babe?" Your heart begins to pound. "They are fine," he whispers, his voice shaking. He looks around your small cottage as if checking for listening ears. It is not them. It is my eldest son, Peter. The one who came to you before. He's sick. Very sick. You are instantly professional, suppressing your own rising anxiety. What is it? A fever? No, he says, and his voice drops to a barely audible rasp. Not just a fever. He is behaving strangely. He is speaking in tongues, they say, and he saw a figure in the dark watching him. He cannot sleep. His mother is convinced that something has laid a curse on him. You look at him at the raw terror in his eyes. This is the kind of problem that makes a priest reach for holy water and a layman reach for something far darker. This is not a broken bone or a dry cough. This is perceived malevolence, a spiritual crisis manifested in physical symptoms. You know these symptoms. They are common in a community dealing with stress, fear, and a strong belief in the supernatural. A sudden, unexplained illness that causes delirium, a vision, or bizarre behavior is often interpreted as demonic possession or a curse laid by a wish. And you, as the village wise woman, are the only one who can address it. Where is he now, you ask? At home in the small room. Mary is praying over him. She wanted me to fetch the priest, but I came to you. This is a crucial detail. He bypassed the church and came to you. He knows, on some level, that this problem is not theological, but magical. This is a subtle, yet widely accepted, distinction in medieval belief systems. A priest can cure a soul, but a wise woman can break a spell. You sigh, turning your attention to your shelves. You know exactly what to do for symptoms of this kind. You'll prepare a calming herbal infusion to help him sleep, something with hops or valerian, and you'll give his mother a powerful wash, made from a mixture of rue and rosemary, to clean the air in the room. These herbs are known to be protective against bad spirits. It is a quirky fact that these magical herbs often had sedative or antiseptic properties. But the most important part of the cure is not the herbs. It is the ritual you must perform. You need to provide a counter-curse, a ritual that is as effective in its symbolic power as the original curse. You cannot use the same simple, practical approach you used for Thomas's cough. This is a problem of belief, and it requires a symbolic solution. You select a small, dried bundle of juniper, a plant known for its protective properties, and wrap it in a clean white cloth. This is for burning, you say to John, a little in the room to purify the air. And this, you hand him a small, sealed pot of salve made with elderflower, is for his temples. He must be touched by a healing hand. But as you hand him the items, your eyes meet his in the flickering firelight. He is a good man, but he is also scared and desperate. The fear of being cursed, the paranoia, the need to find a culprit, you know how quickly these can escalate. Historians still wonder about the true motives behind medieval witchcraft accusations. Were they driven by genuine theological beliefs, or were they a convenient way to settle old grudges or explain away misfortune? As you look at John's desperate face, you know the truth is that they are all of these things, mixed with the very real terror of the unknown. You give John your firmest look. He will recover. He will be safe. But you must trust that these are the true remedies, the ones that work. You must believe that his luck has turned. He nods, clutches the remedies to his chest, and turns to leave. The urgency of his knock is now a quiet desperation. He is a father desperate to save his child, willing to turn to whatever source of power he can find. You watch him disappear into the dark night. You have given him herbs that might calm his son, but more importantly, you have given him hope. In a world full of fear, that is the most powerful remedy you possess. But as you close your door, you are reminded once again of the shifting, dangerous ground you walk on, where the line between a good healer and a dangerous sorcerer is drawn in the eyes of the fearful. The next week passes in a state of tense quiet. You hear through the ever-active grapevine of the well that John the blacksmith's son, Peter, has recovered. The fever broke, the strange visions ceased, and he is back to being a boisterous, healthy boy. John sends you another gift, delivered discreetly by his youngest son, a set of small, sharp iron hooks, perfect for hanging herbs from the rafters. It is a practical, silent thank you. One crisis has been averted. You have successfully navigated the treacherous waters of a suspected curse, and your reputation, for now, is secure. But the news about Thomas the farmer is not good. His cough has worsened, and he is now too weak to leave his bed. The entire village speaks of it in hushed tones. His illness has become a public spectacle, a slow-motion tragedy that everyone is watching. You see Eleanor at the market, her face a mask of grief and exhaustion. She doesn't meet your eyes. There is no open animosity, but there is a distance, a chasm of failure that now lies between you. You feel a pang of genuine sorrow for her, and a cold knot of anxiety for yourself. You notice subtle shifts in the atmosphere of the village. The greetings you receive are still polite, but they are shorter, a little more strained. The women at the well pause their conversations for a moment when you arrive, a silence that speaks louder than their usual chatter. The air itself feels different, charged with a low-grade suspicion. It's like the heavy, humid stillness before a thunderstorm. You've lived in this village your whole life. You know its rhythms, its moods. You know the difference between the communal hardship of a long winter and the sour, curdled mood of blame. This feels like the latter. A widely accepted historical fact is that periods of social and economic stress, a failed harvest, a cattle plague, an outbreak of disease, were often the catalysts for witchcraft accusations. When things go wrong and there is no clear explanation, people look for a scapegoat. A healthy baby is born, and the midwife has gentle hands. A strong man wastes away from an incurable disease, and suddenly those same hands are suspect. One evening, as you are gathering firewood at the edge of the common lands, you see something that makes you pause. A dead crow lying in the path. This, in itself, is not unusual. But this crow has a piece of red thread tied around its leg. Your blood runs cold. This is not a natural death. A crow is a bird of omen, a creature that walks between the worlds. Tying a red thread to it is a piece of folk magic, an act meant to bind or curse. It's a message. Someone is deliberately trying to stir up fear, to place a sign of ill omen where it will be seen. It's a quirky, chilling detail of folk magic that much of it relied on this kind of symbolic theater. The power was not just in the object itself, but in its discovery. Someone wanted the village to feel that dark forces were at work. Someone was fanning the flames of fear. You don't touch the bird. You back away slowly and take a different path home, your basket of firewood suddenly feeling immensely heavy. The world, which just a few weeks ago felt familiar and full of purpose, now feels hostile and full of hidden meanings. Every shadow seems a little deeper, every whisper on the wind seems to carry your name. Historians still debate the sincerity of these magical signs. Was the person who tied the thread to that crow a true believer in sympathetic magic, genuinely trying to lay a curse? Or were they a cynical opportunist, using the village's superstitions to settle a personal score or deflect blame from themselves? It's impossible to know, but the effect is the same. It poisons the well of community trust. You spend more time in your cottage now, keeping to yourself. You still see patients, but fewer come knocking. The ailments are minor, a splinter, a mild stomach ache. No one is bringing you their serious troubles anymore. The trust has been broken. Thomas's decline is a stark, public testament to the limits of your power, and in a world that believes in magic, a lack of power can be interpreted as the presence of a different, more malevolent kind. You sit by your hearth, watching the flames. The fire is your constant companion, your oldest friend. It has always been a source of comfort, of warmth, of transformation. But tonight, as you watch the logs burn and crumble into ash, you feel a sense of foreboding. The wind has changed. It's a wind that carries the scent of fear, of blame, of a community turning on itself. And you, the woman who lives on the edge of the village, the one who knows the secrets of the herbs and the whispers of the charms, are standing right in its path. You are no longer just the healer. You are a potential explanation for everything that has gone wrong. The balance of your life has shifted, and you don't know how to tip it back. The day ends. It's a phrase that seems simple, but tonight it feels heavy with meaning. The sun bleeds out across the horizon, leaving streaks of angry purple and bruised orange in its wake. From your doorway, you watch the last of the villagers hurrying home, their shoulders hunched against a newly sharpened evening chill. The sounds of the day, the blacksmith's hammer, the laughter from the well, the lowing of cattle, have all faded, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the lonely hoot of an owl in the woods. The village is pulling its doors shut, drawing into itself for the night. You do the same, the solid thud of the wooden bars sliding into place a small, unsatisfying reassurance. You move to the heart of your home. The fire you kindled at dawn is now a bed of glowing, weary embers. It has cooked your meager supper of bread and turnip stew, heated the water for your teas, and offered its silent, flickering company throughout the long day. Now its work is done. You add no more logs. You will let it sleep. You sit on your low stool, the one the old man has yet to repair, and simply watch the embers. They pulse with a soft, internal light, a deep, living red that is mesmerizing. In their shifting patterns, you see the map of your day, of your life. Each glowing coal is a moment, a person, a choice. You see the hopeful face of Thomas the farmer, the terrified eyes of John the blacksmith, the grateful smile of new Mother Mary, and the suspicious glances of the women at the well. They are all in there, in the fire's memory. The air in the cottage is thick with the day's scents, the lingering sharpness of onion, the sweet perfume of dried violets, the bitter, medicinal tang of willow bark, and overarching all of it, the ancient, comforting smell of wood smoke. These are the smells of your trade, the aromas of your identity. But tonight they smell different. They smell of failure and of fear. The dead crow with its red thread is a persistent, ugly image in your mind. You are a woman who lives in a world of subtle signs and omens, and you cannot ignore the ones that are now gathering around you. The failure to heal Thomas is a powerful sign, a public demonstration of your limits. The changing atmosphere in the village is another. You are becoming isolated, a slow and quiet quarantine of mistrust. This is how it begins. A widely accepted historical fact is that accusations of witchcraft rarely sprang from nowhere. They were the culmination of years of smaller resentments, of failed harvests, of personal tragedies, all looking for a single, simple cause. As the embers cool, they begin to turn from fiery red to a soft, ashen gray, a delicate crust forming over their heat. It's a slow, beautiful process of transformation. You think about your place in this world. You are not a monster. You are not a heretic. You are a woman with a specific, and sometimes powerful, knowledge. A knowledge of the earth, of the plants that grow from it, and of the frail, hopeful bodies of the people who walk upon it. You have used that knowledge to bring comfort, to ease pain, and to welcome new life. You have done your best. It's a quirky, sad detail of your life that your intentions matter far less than the results. You meant to heal Thomas, but he is dying. You meant to soothe Peter's night terrors, and while he recovered, you have only solidified your reputation as someone who deals in the unseen, a dangerous association. Your successes and failures are not your own. They belong to the village, to be interpreted, twisted, and woven into whatever narrative they need to believe. Historians still debate the agency of women like you. Were you simply a passive victim of circumstance and superstition, a pawn in a larger social game? Or did you wield a form of real, albeit risky, power? Did you consciously cultivate an aura of mystique and fear as a form of protection, a way of keeping people at a respectful distance? As you sit here, alone in the deepening dark, you feel both profoundly powerful and utterly powerless. You hold the knowledge of life and death in your hands, but you cannot control the story that people will tell about you. The last of the red glow fades from the embers. They are now just a pile of gray ash, though you know that deep within, a spark of heat may yet remain. The cottage is almost completely dark, the only light coming from a sliver of pale moonlight finding its way through a crack in the shutters. It is quiet. The deep, absolute quiet of a world without electricity, without the constant hum of machines. In this silence, you can hear the beating of your own heart. It is steady. You're afraid, but you are still here. You rise from your stool and make your way to your straw-filled mattress. You lie down, pulling the rough wool blanket up to your chin. The day is over. You have done what you could. Whatever tomorrow brings, be it a new patient, a fresh wave of gossip, or something worse, you will face it as you have faced everything else, with the knowledge in your hands and the quiet, stubborn resilience of a weed that insists on growing in the cracks of a stone wall. For now, there is only the darkness, the silence, and the hope for a dreamless sleep. Now, as the story of our wise woman comes to a close, let the gentle rhythm of your own breathing guide you deeper into rest. The embers in her hearth have faded to a soft, sleeping gray, and the sounds of the medieval village have long since fallen silent, leaving only the deep, peaceful quiet of the night. Feel the weight of your own blanket around you, a comforting presence in the stillness of your room. Let go of the day's thoughts, just as the village has let go of its work and worries, surrendering to the gentle pull of sleep. Imagine the soft, cool air of the night, carrying the faint, distant scent of wood smoke and damp earth. There is nothing left for you to do, nowhere you need to be. This moment is for rest. With every slow breath you take, feel the tension leaving your shoulders, your arms, your hands. With every gentle breath out, let go of any lingering thoughts, watching them drift away like smoke rising into a vast, starry sky. The world outside can wait. Your only task now is to sink into the softness of your bed, to feel the steady, quiet rhythm of your own heart, a gentle drumbeat lulling you into a deep and peaceful slumber. Allow yourself this time to rest, to recharge, and to drift peacefully into the kind and quiet world of your dreams.